As soon as I sat down to start filming, the whole house went crazy. So my dog's barking, children are moving back home from university. It's bedlam. So I'm hiding up here in my room. So today we're here to talk about one of my favorite tools, and it's the good old-fashioned makeup sponge. And I get so excited to talk about these because in my time, beauty sponges have come such a long way. For people with dry skin or just anybody who wants more of a natural look or airbrush look to their makeup and doesn't like that kind of like heavy, full-on cake mask-like appearance that you can sometimes get, beauty blending sponges are essential. So what I thought I would do today is kind of compare the ones that I have. Oh, I dropped one. The original is the original beauty blender from Sephora. A pricier item. It's $28 Canadian at Sephora for this little sponge. This is the original beauty blending sponge, and what's so good about this and what makes it so different from any other product is the fact that it has a really interesting composition. It almost feels rubbery. It's like a rubbery sponge. So it's sponge-like, but it definitely has some rubbery qualities to it, which allows it to keep its shape, allows it to stay really bouncy. This is a dry one, by the way. All of the ones that I'm going to show you today are in their dry state, but what you do is you dampen them underwater and they expand. So it keeps its shape. The rubbery texture of it allows it to absorb the perfect amount of product. If it's too spongy, a sponge will just like soak up all of the product that you have on it, and then it won't apply it properly to the skin. And if it's too rubbery and not porous enough, the product will just sit on top of it, like those silicone sponges that are kind of coming out. Well, they're not even sponges. They're like, they look like little bra inserts, and you use those to smear makeup all over your face. So if something's not porous enough, the product will sit on top of it and it'll just kind of like smear it on your face and not apply it properly. So when a sponge is good, it's got that nice balance between kind of rubberiness, and it's the only way I can describe it because it feels like rubbery more than spongy, but it's definitely a sponge. So this is just very, very fine pores, very fine texture, but absorbent enough, if that makes any sense. So that's the benchmark. I mean, this is what we're comparing and measuring every other product up against. This is the best one on the market. There are a lot of other ones that are good that I'm going to talk about, but this is the original one. And I think that everybody should own this. If it's outside of your comfort zone price-wise or outside of your budget, totally understand. I'm going to show you everything else I'm going to show you. Like there's 3 other sponges that are my favorite. They are drugstore prices for sure, but it doesn't hurt to put this on your Christmas list. Like, I don't think anybody will regret buying one of these and spending the $28 on it. I do think it is a very excellent product. I've purchased it. I've purchased 2, and I will definitely repurchase in the future. It's the best one. It's great for applying liquid products. It's great for applying cream products. It's great for, you can apply right from, like I always put like product on the back of my hand and dab it in, or you can apply with your fingers or a brush and then use this to go over. It's good for applying concealer because it takes that kind of heavy cakiness away. It's great for applying things like cream blush. It's even good, you can use them dry for applying powder underneath your eyes. Like you can use it for pretty much anything except maybe like, I don't know if I would use it for powder blush. I've tried it with powder blush and it picks up way too much product. But you could use it for cream eyeshadow and whatnot. And they've got different sizes and kind of different ones, but this is just the original pink one, the best seller, and I definitely recommend that one. So first up is the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge. And this is like my second favorite. I love this. I think it's a really good product. It's not necessarily comparable to the Beauty Blender in that it is not exactly the same makeup. So it's a little bit more spongy, a little bit more porous than the Beauty Blender. But as its own product, like standalone product, it's really good and highly recommended. It's got that same kind of egg shape. You can see it's a little bit bigger. These are slightly damp because I washed them last night, but you can see that it's slightly bigger. So it doesn't have quite the same tapered point at the end. Like this is quite triangular. This is a little bit more bulbous. So it's a little bit harder to get into tight corners. You can see the difference. Like this is going to blend out a little bit more. But what is good about this one is it's got this kind of chiseled side to it, which I really like. I mean, it does work for under eyes as well. What I love this for is applying my cushion foundations. I hate the little kind of sponges that come with these. That I don't like the way that they apply, especially the drugstore ones. I don't like the way they apply the product. So I love this like chiseled edge. It just fits in here perfectly. I do one press on a dry sponge actually. I just find that it deposits the right amount of product. When they're damp, it's a little bit too sheer of an application, and this just pounces it on in a really natural way, and you just get that kind of light sheer wash. Like I said, really good for people who like sheer application of makeup or have dry skin and don't want too much product on their face. Or if you do like that full foundation, like full on look, it's really good for just taking the edge off of, you know, like the kind of buildup of product on your face. It just smooths everything out. And what I like about it is it's very inexpensive, and it was designed by Sam and Nick Chapman. I mean, how can you not support Pixie Woo? So that's why I love this product. It just, I really like when people that I followed on YouTube start a business and they really get it, and they, you know, definitely serve a corner of the market. Now, they are getting a little ridiculous, because when I was on Ulta looking at the different sponges, because, oh my gosh, big surprise, if you're Canadian, Ulta now ships to Canada. Yay! Thank you! It's about time. So excited. When I was on there, it's like they've got a million sponges now, which to me is a little gimmicky. I think you just need a couple of sizes of sponge and you're good to go. But they've got like a sponge to use with your cleanser, a sponge, like a big body size sponge. They've got little sponges, diamond shape, like a million and one different things. But this one to me is still the best. And it's, you know, the best value. Now, the sponge that I think has kind of nailed that balance between rubbery and sponge, as well as the Beauty Blender, was a total surprise to me. It's the L'Oreal, what are they called? Everything from L'Oreal now is infallible. So it's the L'Oreal Infallible Blend Artist Sponges. And they've got 3. They've got one that's for foundation, this one which is the concealer blender, and then another one which is for doing contour. And they're all like neon colors, so they're pink, blue, like you can see how bright that blue is. And I purchased this one because I don't have a small sponge for applying concealer with, and I just wanted to try the size and I wanted to try the product, so that's why I got this one. It's kind of built the same way as the Real Techniques sponge, except instead of having like the egg shape, it's got almost like a stamp on the bottom. I don't know if that's so that it will stand up on your counter or whatnot, but I basically just use it this way. And then if I'm applying a blush, like a cream blush, I'll use the round kind of egg side, because it does a better job of blending out product on the cheeks. This is really good and very comparable to the Beauty Blender at half the price. This is $11 or $10 depending on where you find it. It's a little bit more rubbery than the Beauty Blender, so a little bit less porous. It has more of that rubbery feel to it, but really good. This one is excellent for, like I said, underneath the eyes, and I love this one for applying my cream products on my face. The only complaint that I have about this one is there's a little bit of inconsistency in the way that it absorbs water. So I will be running it under the tap, and there'll be places that aren't soaking up the water as easily as the rest of the sponge. So it can be like there's a little spot where the texture is just slightly different. So a little bit, I don't know, less quality control than on the Beauty Blender, but still not it's not a deal breaker for me. It's really good. I highly recommend these. So my latest acquisition are these 3 little sponges that came as a pack. They're the Swispers Make-Offs blending sponges, and I found these at the drugstore, and I was quite surprised because I had just seen them recently on Emily Noel's channel when she was talking about her favorite drugstore beauty blending dupes. So I thought, okay, well, I can't go wrong. If Emily Noel likes them, I'm sure I'll like them. So I gave them a try. Like I said, a pack of 3 for $10 Canadian, which is excellent. And they come in the 3 sizes. So you've got like a bigger one, a medium-sized one, and then a little baby one. So these are those kind of like, they look like hourglass figures to me, or they've got this kind of weird wavy shape. And I guess so that you can hold on to them with the smaller part and use the bigger part like to pounce. But I prefer the shape that you hold kind of like this and then, you know, use that way. I'm not a really big, you know, stamper fan. So let's talk about performance-wise. Texture-wise, these are really good. So they've got that nice balance between sponginess and rubberiness. They go nice and soft. They expand to be about 3 times, no, maybe not 3 times, twice the size that they are. And I guess it's nice to have the 3 sizes. I find this little one a little bit too fussy. Like, it's not pointy enough to get underneath my eyes. It's okay, but then it's like, it's hard to hold and it's really small. I don't really like that. I prefer this one for under eyes because I still have a nice product to hold on to. This one just kind of pops out of my hand and it's like, I don't know what I'm saying. It's a little bit too dinky, too small, even though don't we love little dinky products. So I'm not a really big fan of this size in this shape. I prefer to have more of the sculpted shape. This one's probably my favorite out of the 3 of them, just because it's a nice size. It expands to be about this size when it's wet. So when I wet this one, it grows to be about the size that the big one is dry. And to me, it's the perfect balance. So again, I use this for cream products, and it's good for applying your foundation. But I got to admit, I'm not the biggest fan of the shape. I much prefer these kind of egg-shaped ones. I just find this kind of like bulge here is, I don't know, it gets in the way of the point. So not my favorite, but I do have to admit it's a really good product. Not quite as porous as the Beauty Blender again, but just so much better than the dupes that they were putting out, you know, even as recently as a couple of years ago. They're just, the technology is really improved, and I think there are some really outstanding dupes now for the Beauty Blender at the drugstore, so you can save yourself some money. So if you're looking for this egg shape, really the only egg-shaped one that I found that's even remotely similar is the Real Techniques one. The L'Oreal Infallible Blend Artist sponge for foundation, like the larger one, is again this kind of weird shape. I don't know what this is. What is this? A bell? I don't know. What are we going to call it? So I really like this one for the shape. But if you like this shape, I really recommend these Whispers ones. I think they're really good and they're good value for money. And you just get them in the drugstore. Mine were just kind of like hanging on one of like these little plastic tabs where there's like the little hooks on them at the end of an aisle. They were just hanging there in with like the cotton pads and things like that. So, you know, have a look around for those because they're really good if you're looking for something less expensive than this. But to be fair, you can't really beat this one. So like for the cost of all 3 of these and this little guy at the drugstore is the same, was still less than this one, but it's all on what, you know, like where you want to spend your money. If you don't want to spend $30 almost on a sponge, then I can tell you there's definitely some good ones at the drugstore. So there you go. My favorite tool is my beauty blending sponges, and those are my favorites. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.